Season of Discovery is weird, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I actually mean this in a good way. And there is something about Season of Discovery Classic WoW that has changed up Classic WoW in a meaningful way. This isn't something that is spoken about too much. You know, you see people on YouTube and Twitch, they're playing Season of Discovery and they're going on about how insane the new builds and new rune abilities are and so on and so forth. And yeah, that's understandable. But what is more interesting to me, in my opinion, is how it kind of changes the vibe of Classic WoW. And I noticed this in myself. As I'm playing in Season of Discovery Classic WoW, I'm actually noticing that I'm being way more social, I'm being way more nice to people, and that's not to say that I was a dick playing Classic WoW to people before. Well, maybe sometimes. But I think if we're all being honest with ourselves, we can say that we kind of turn into these antisocial, I'm only in it for myself kind of players when we're playing Classic WoW to some degree. We rarely talk to each other unless we're, in a group and someone does something wrong, then we get in an argument or something. That's kind of it. When you're playing Classic WoW, the socializing you do with other players in this multiplayer role-playing game is actually quite minimal. I think this has been changed up with Season of Discovery. In general chat and so on, there's constantly people asking questions and getting questions answered. People are chatting with each other. Everybody I've interacted with in the open world has been pretty damn cool, and it feels like you're actually playing with other people. And I noticed this in myself pretty early on. I was playing Season of Discovery day one, and I was checking out some of the stuff, trying to find some of these runes, looking up online to see if anybody else has found any new information, and I figured out, you can actually get a rune for the rogue, which is the class I'm playing, on the top of this building. You can jump up on some of these boxes and you can find a rune. I even had a moment where I whispered some rogues where I would tell them, look, come up here and there's a rune for you. Again, there was no advantage for me doing this. I just kind of felt like it, which is weird. I would never go out of my way playing Classic WoW to help people until Season of Discovery. And it's kind of weird, you kind of reflect on that. You're like, oh wow, when I was playing Classic WoW before in Season of Mastery or Classic Era, you kind of just go on about your own and you basically talk to nobody. But here, it's kind of a different vibe, and I noticed this with people that they're a lot more talkative, they're a lot more cool and friendly and jovial, and this hasn't been a theme in Classic WoW in quite a while. I think now that things are more open in terms of what is the best way to do things, and we're still figuring stuff out. We've just got our hands on a bunch of new abilities and radically different ways to play the classes that we know and love. We're still figuring stuff out, and I'm actually trying to purposefully restrict how much metagame strategy I consume. And what I mean by that is on YouTube there's this culture of guides and here's how you do XYZ and here's how you get this the fastest way possible. And that's understandable. The way I'm playing Season of Discovery is I'm taking my sweet ass time. I'm discovering and figuring things out by myself, and at a certain point I may look up what is the most optimal way to do things. Right now I'm not even sure if I have the best build possible, but with the new Mutilate rune that Rogue has, it seems like I'm doing way more damage than the average combat spec. So I'm kind of digging this new way to play. I'm not sure if this is even the best build for a Rogue at this point, but I am really loving it. It's just so much fun to play a Rogue in Season of Discovery with these new radically different playstyles. So in Season of Discovery, I think we're a lot more adventurous, and that's kind of cool. People are still figuring stuff out and discovering things for their own and talking to each other and, sharing advice and ideas. It actually feels like I'm playing a MMO. It's weird. But not only are we more adventurous, but I think Blizzard is more adventurous here too. It seems like they're throwing a lot of stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. I kind of dig it. People that have even gone into Black Fathom Deeps, the raid, or at least the highest level raid as of this point in the game, looking at some of the equipment, a lot of these are kind of weird experimental unique pieces of gear. It's not the typical boring stat stick. There is actually some interesting stat lines in some of these pieces of gear where you think, I wonder if this is broken or terrible. You don't quite know yet. And some really strange stuff that is quite niche. I kind of love this. I love how Blizzard is being a bit more adventurous with how they're approaching Classic WoW. I mean, why not? It's a seasonal server. Like, why not get a bit wacky? Yeah, let's see what happens. In terms of like balance, yeah, it's gonna be all over the place, but at a certain point, what does balance matter? Like, are we playing an esport? Are we playing Dota 2? No, we're not. This isn't a hard game. This isn't a super competitive game. Why not have some fun with this? And I think a lot of people are kind of taking this approach where it's like, people have called it the season of dads because of how lax the time commitment is to play Season of Discovery. It's very quick to get to max level. Like, I'm already 18 and I'm being very casual with how I play. I'm gonna hit max level pretty damn soon. I've heard this take from Asmongold and, whatever. Me and Asmongold have some, blood feud or whatever. Forget that. He actually made an interesting point where Classic WoW isn't a hard game. Like, why would Blizzard try to lean into it to become this super competitive esport-like game? It's not really that. We're playing a retro MMO where the mechanics are actually pretty damn simple when you compare them to an actually competitive game such as Dota 2, StarCraft, League of Legends, whatever. The point being, Classic WoW was never meant to be like this hyper-competitive, super difficult game. So the fact that it doesn't take a million years to hit max level, I don't see the problem with this. There's a staggered release to Season of Discovery. It's going to be a 25 cap for a few months, and then it will increase up to 40, I believe, for the Nomergun raid to be that patch's current content. So if you're a super casual player, you got plenty of time to get the full experience of Season of Discovery. Yeah, I think this is kind of cool. And especially for a seasonal server where these characters are going to be dust in the wind at a certain point, I think expecting some big time commitments the same way it would be to get to 60 on Classic Era is just, it doesn't make too much sense. It doesn't really add anything. There's this intangible feeling to Classic WoW Season of Discovery where there is a bit of mystery in the air. There's a bit of excitement and jovial nature, kinda like we're playing Classic WoW once again. I don't know exactly what the end game is going to look like for my Rogue and Season of Discovery, and I didn't know back when I made my Rogue and Classic WoW in like 2005. It's kinda cool not knowing what comes up next. Relish this moment. When people pine about the old days of vanilla WoW as it was back then, a lot of that comes from just not knowing what to expect or what's going on or anything. And that's kind of what we have in Season of Discovery. Yeah, this is pretty freaking cool. And if you want to maintain this enjoyment that you have of the game, don't rush into making things as efficient and optimal as possible. Kind of figure stuff out for yourself. Go along with the class fantasy. I'm this cool guy with daggers stabbing people. Yeah, that's my class. Is it the best build? I don't know. I don't know if that's the most optimal build for a rogue, and I don't want to know for quite a while. And this is something quite weird, but I think a lot of you will agree. Thank you guys for watching. Drop a like and sub. I'll see you in the next vid.